Have you ever noticed something terrifying about your life? No matter where you go, no matter what you do, no matter how busy you stay, you still feel the same inside. You can change your city, you can change your friends, you can change your routine, even change your whole personality in front of people, but deep down you cannot escape the voice in your head. You cannot escape your fears. You cannot escape your emptiness. You cannot escape the truth you keep avoiding. And the reason you feel stuck is not because life is against you. It's because you are lying to yourself every single day. You keep saying you're okay, but you're not. You keep pretending you don't care, but you do. You keep acting like you moved on, but your mind is still trapped in the same pain. Buddhism teaches that the biggest prison is not your situation, it's your own unconscious mind. So if you're ready to stop running, stop pretending, and finally face yourself like a warrior, then listen carefully, because these lessons will change the way you see yourself forever. 1. Your mind is the place you can't run from. Most people think escape is a solution. They believe if they change their environment, everything will change. They say, when I get a new job, I'll be happy. When I leave this relationship, I'll be free. When I move to a new place, I'll feel peace. But Buddhism reveals something deeper. If your mind is not healed, every place you go will become the same prison, just with different walls. Because the real problem is not always the place you are in. The real problem is the mental weight you are carrying inside you. You see, people run because running feels easier than facing. Facing your emotions feels painful, so you choose distraction. Facing your weaknesses feels uncomfortable, so you choose comfort. Facing the truth feels heavy, so you choose fake happiness. But the mind never forgets what you are avoiding. It keeps your pain stored deep inside, and it brings it back at the worst moments, when you are alone, when you are quiet, and when nobody is watching. Because what are you really escaping? You are not escaping the world. You are escaping your own feelings. You are escaping loneliness. You are escaping fear. You are escaping the truth that something inside you is not at peace. You are escaping the guilt you don't want to accept. You are escaping the emptiness you don't want to feel. You are escaping the reality that you are not fully satisfied with the person you have become. And the worst part is, you can fool people, but you cannot fool yourself. People may think you are okay, people may think you are strong, people may think you are confident, but inside your heart, you know what you are carrying. That is why no escape ever works for long. You can stay busy all day, but at night your mind will speak. You can laugh with friends, but deep inside you still feel empty. You can scroll endlessly, watch videos, play games, and distract yourself for hours. But the moment the phone is off, the moment the room becomes silent, the moment you lie down on your bed, the weight returns again. And it returns because it never left. You only covered it. You only buried it under noise. But pain does not disappear when you ignore it. It grows quietly. This is why some people have everything, yet still feel unhappy. Their life looks perfect from the outside, but their mind is full of storms. They have a good home, good friends, money, comfort, and still they can't sleep peacefully. Because peace is not something you buy. Peace is something you build inside your mind. And if your mind is full of anxiety, regret, insecurity, and fear, then even paradise will feel like a prison. That is why Buddhism teaches that your mind creates your world. The outside world is not always your suffering. Your inner world becomes your suffering when it is uncontrolled. Buddhism calls this suffering dukkha, not just physical pain, but the deep inner dissatisfaction that follows you even when life looks okay. It is that feeling of emptiness even after laughing. That feeling of heaviness even after success, that feeling of restlessness even when nothing is wrong. And one of the biggest reasons people suffer is because they keep running from their own mind. instead of understanding it. They keep avoiding their emotions instead of healing them. They keep blaming the world instead of fixing what is happening inside them. The truth is simple. If you can't sit with your own thoughts in silence, you are not free, because freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is being able to stay calm inside your own mind. Freedom is being able to sit alone without feeling broken. Freedom is being able to hear your thoughts without being destroyed by them. But if silence scares you, if being alone makes you panic, if your own mind feels like an enemy, then you are not living with peace. You are living with distraction. And a distracted person can survive, they can look fine to others, they can function in society, but deep inside they are still suffering because they never faced themselves. So the lesson is this: stop trying to escape life. Stop thinking that a new place, a new person, a new phone, a new lifestyle, or a new routine will save you. Yes, change can be good, but without inner healing, every change becomes another loop of the same pain. Start learning how to sit with yourself. Start learning how to observe your mind. Start learning how to calm your inner chaos, because your mind is the only place you will live in forever. And if you make peace with your own mind, then no matter where you go, you will carry peace with you. 2. The lies you tell yourself become your chains. Most people think lying is something you do to others. They think a liar is someone who tricks people, cheats people, or hides the truth from the world. But Buddhism reveals something even deeper and more dangerous than that. The most harmful lies are not the ones you tell other people. The most harmful lies are the ones you tell yourself, because when you lie to yourself, you don't just hide the truth, you start living against it. And the moment you start living against the truth, you start suffering silently. Because self-lies feel comfortable in the beginning. They protect your ego, they protect your pride, they help you avoid pain, they help you avoid responsibility, they make you feel safe. But slowly those lies become your chains. They trap you in the same mindset. They trap you in the same habits. They trap you in the same emotional cycle, and you don't even realize it because you are too busy pretending everything is okay. You lie to yourself when you say, "I don't care," but deep inside you care so much that it hurts. You lie when you say, "I'm over it," but you still think about it every night. You lie when you say, "I'm strong," but inside you are tired of carrying everything alone. You lie when you say, "They didn't affect me," but their words are still living rent-free in your mind. You lie when you say, "This is just my life," when the truth is, you are scared to change it. And the biggest lie of all is when you say, "I'm fine," while your heart is slowly breaking in silence. And the problem is not just the lie itself. The problem is what the lie does to your life. Because when you lie to yourself, you delay healing, you delay growth, you delay freedom. You stop improving because you stop seeing the real problem. You keep blaming people, blaming luck, blaming the world, blaming your past, but deep inside the truth is simple. The reason you are stuck is because you refuse to admit what is real. Buddhism teaches that suffering continues when you refuse to see reality clearly, because clarity is liberation, but denial is bondage. A person who sees clearly can change their life. But a person who lives in self-deception keeps repeating the same pain again and again. They stay in toxic relationships and call it loyalty. They stay in bad habits and call it stress relief. They keep running from discipline and call it, "I'm just not motivated." They keep destroying themselves slowly and call it, "This is normal." And what makes it worse is, they don't even realize they are lying. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes their personality. It becomes their identity. This is why the Buddha taught the importance of right understanding, because if your understanding is wrong, your whole life becomes wrong. If you think your happiness depends on people, You will always suffer when people change. If you think your peace depends on life being perfect, you will always suffer when life becomes difficult. If you think you need validation to feel valuable, you will always suffer when nobody notices you. These beliefs might feel normal, but they are not truth. They are mental traps, and the longer you live inside them, the more you suffer. And here is the painful truth. You cannot heal what you refuse to admit. If you keep lying to yourself, your wounds stay open. If you keep denying your emotions, they don't disappear. They become heavier. If you keep pretending you don't need peace, your mind becomes more restless. If you keep acting like you are okay, your heart slowly becomes numb. That is why some people don't look broken, but inside they feel empty, because they have been lying to themselves for so long that they don't even know what truth feels like anymore. So the real transformation begins with honesty. Not honesty with the world, because the world doesn't need to know everything about you, but honesty with yourself. The kind of honesty where you finally sit down and admit, yes, I am hurting. Yes, I feel lonely. Yes, I am scared. Yes, I am not proud of my habits. Yes, I have been wasting my time. Yes, I need to change. That moment feels heavy, but it also feels powerful, because truth is not meant to destroy you. Truth is meant to free you. And this is why self-honesty is one of the strongest forms of discipline. It takes courage to admit your weakness. It takes courage to admit your mistakes. It takes courage to admit that you have been pretending. But the moment you stop lying to yourself, you stop fighting reality. And when you stop fighting reality, your suffering starts to shrink. So the lesson is simple but life-changing. Stop lying to yourself. Stop acting like you don't know what is ruining your peace. Stop making excuses for what is draining your life. Stop calling your pain normal when it is clearly a sign you need healing. Because the truth might hurt at first, but the lie will destroy you slowly. And the day you choose truth, you choose freedom. 3. Your suffering is not the problem, your attachment is. Most people spend their whole life trying to remove pain from life, as if pain is something unnatural, as if pain is a mistake, as if pain should never happen to them. They think if they can make life perfect, then they will finally be peaceful. They think if they get more money, more love, more attention, more comfort, then suffering will disappear forever. But Buddhism teaches a truth that most people don't want to accept. Pain is a normal part of being alive, but suffering is created inside the mind. Pain happens to everyone, but suffering happens when you refuse to let reality be reality. This is why Buddhism says your suffering is not the problem. Your attachment is. Pain is when something hurts, but suffering is when you hold on to it, replay it, and refuse to release it. Pain is when something ends, but suffering is when you beg for it to come back. Pain is when life changes, but suffering is when you keep wishing it stayed the same. Pain is natural. Suffering is the war you create against what already happened. Think about it deeply. Two people can go through the same situation, but one moves on and becomes stronger, while the other stays stuck for years. Why? Because one accepts reality and the other clings to illusion. One understands change is part of life, and the other keeps fighting change like it is a punishment. That fight is suffering. Buddhism teaches that attachment is not only about people. Attachment is about expectations. It is about your ego. It is about the image you have in your mind about how life should be. You become attached to the idea that certain people must stay. You become attached to the idea that life must go your way. You become attached to the idea that you deserve perfect treatment. You become attached to the idea that things should not change. And when reality breaks your expectations, you don't just feel pain, you feel destroyed. That is why attachment is dangerous. Because attachment is not love. Attachment is dependency. It is a craving. It is your mind saying, "I need this to be okay, or I will suffer." And the moment you place your peace in something outside you, you become weak inside. Because now your emotions are controlled by a person, a situation, a memory, or a desire. Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is tanha, craving. Craving does not always look like greed. Sometimes craving looks like emotional dependency. Sometimes craving looks like, "I need them to stay." Sometimes craving looks like, "I need people to respect me." Sometimes craving looks like, "I need my life to be easy." Sometimes craving looks like, "I need my past or back." And this craving becomes the fuel of your pain. Because your mind starts chasing what it cannot control. It chases people who change. It chases moments that ended. It chases approval that is never guaranteed. It chases perfection in a world that is always imperfect. And when you cannot get it, you suffer. This is why so many people feel heavy inside, even when nothing is happening outside. Because their suffering is not in the present moment. Their suffering is in their attachment to something that is not here anymore. They keep living in their memories. They keep living in their regrets. They keep living in their fantasies. They keep living in the version of life they wanted, instead of accepting the life they actually have. And the most painful attachment of all is attachment to your own story. The story where you are always the victim. The story where life is unfair to you. The story where people always hurt you. The story where you always lose. The story where you always fail. Because when you attach yourself to that story, you become blind to your own power. You stop seeing solutions. You stop seeing growth. You stop seeing new beginnings. You become addicted to suffering because suffering becomes familiar. A person who is attached to their pain will say, "This is who I am." But Buddhism teaches that nothing is permanent. Not your pain, not your emotions, not your thoughts, not your identity. Everything changes. The only reason your pain stays longer than it should is because you keep feeding it with your attachment. This is why letting go is not weak. Letting go is wisdom. Letting go is strength. Letting go is choosing peace over ego. Letting go is choosing reality over illusion. Letting go is choosing your life over your past. But let's be honest, letting go is hard because people confuse attachment with love. They think if they let go, it means they didn't care. They think if they move on, it means the bond was fake. They think if they release someone, it means they are giving up. But Buddhism teaches something beautiful. You can love someone and still let them go. You can care deeply and still detach. You can appreciate what happened and still release what is hurting you. Because real love is peaceful. Real love does not destroy your mind. Real love does not make you beg for respect. Real love does not make you lose yourself. Real love does not make you feel worthless without them. That is attachment, not love. When you are attached, you start losing yourself. You start overthinking every small change. You start checking your phone again and again. You start needing reassurance like oxygen. You start feeling anxiety when someone's energy shifts. You start trying to control everything because deep inside you are scared of loss, and then you call it love, but it is fear. Buddhism teaches that the way to end suffering is not to control life, but to accept life. Not to hold tighter, but to release. Not to chase what is slipping, but to let it go with dignity, because everything you hold too tightly will break you. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you hold it gently, it stays. But if you squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers. That is exactly how life is. The tighter you hold, the more you lose. The more you cling, the more you suffer. The more you chase, the more you feel empty. So the solution is not to stop feeling. The solution is to stop clinging. to stop making your happiness depend on something temporary, to stop putting your peace in the hands of people who can change any time, to stop attaching your identity to things that can disappear. Because the moment you release attachment, life becomes lighter, your mind becomes calmer, your heart becomes more stable, and even when pain comes, it doesn't destroy you like before. Because you no longer fight reality, you no longer beg life to be different. You accept it, you learn from it, and you move forward. This is the power of Buddhist detachment. It does not make you cold, it makes you free. It does not make you careless, it makes you peaceful. It does not make you empty. It removes the unnecessary suffering you have been carrying for too long. So the lesson is this: your suffering is not the problem is what you refuse to release. The problem is what you keep holding on to, even though it is hurting you. The problem is the attachment that keeps your mind trapped in the past, trapped in craving, trapped in expectations, trapped in illusions. And the day you truly understand this, you stop suffering the same way. You stop begging for what left. You stop chasing what doesn't choose you. You stop clinging to what is already gone. And you finally start living with peace, because you realize the greatest freedom is not getting everything you want. The greatest freedom is being okay, even when life doesn't go your way. 4. The person you avoid becomes the person who controls you. Most people don't realize this, but the biggest prison in life is not a bad job, not a toxic relationship, not even a hard situation. The biggest prison is when you start avoiding yourself. Because the moment you avoid yourself, you lose control of your own life. You may still wake up every day, you may still smile, work, talk, and act normal. But inside, something is controlling you quietly. Something is pulling your emotions from behind the curtain. And that something is the part of you that you refuse to face. Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is not only desire, but also ignorance. And ignorance does not mean you are stupid or uneducated. Ignorance means you are unaware of the truth inside you. It means you don't understand your own mind. You don't understand your own emotions. You don't understand your own patterns. You are living on autopilot, reacting to life, but never truly seeing what is happening within you. This is why so many people repeat the same pain again and again. They don't change, not because they don't want to change, but because they don't have awareness. They keep getting hurt in the same way. They keep attracting the same kind of people. They keep falling into the same bad habits. They keep making the same mistakes. And they keep saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" But Buddhism would answer, because you are not seeing yourself clearly. Because the person you avoid becomes the person who controls you. The insecurity you don't face becomes the reason you need validation. The anger you don't heal becomes the reason you react and ruin relationships. The fear you don't understand becomes the reason you procrastinate and delay your success. The pain you don't release becomes the reason you overthink at night. The loneliness you don't accept becomes the reason you beg people to stay, even when they don't respect you. You avoid yourself when you don't want to admit you are broken. You avoid yourself when you don't want to admit you are scared. You avoid yourself when you don't want to admit you are still carrying pain from the past. And what happens when you avoid it? It doesn't disappear. It grows. It hides. It becomes part of your personality. It becomes part of your identity. It becomes the invisible force running your life. Many people think avoiding pain means they are protecting themselves. But the truth is, avoiding pain is the same as feeding it. Because pain that is not faced becomes pain that is repeated. It becomes pain that leaks into everything. It leaks into your confidence. It leaks into your friendships. It leaks into your focus. It leaks into your sleep. It leaks into your peace. And then you start thinking your life is cursed, when in reality your mind is just untreated. Buddhism teaches that liberation starts with awareness. Awareness is like turning the light on in a dark room. When the room is dark, you feel fear. You imagine monsters. You imagine danger. You panic. But the moment you turn the light on, you realize there was nothing controlling you except your imagination. This is exactly how your inner world works. When you are unaware, your emotions control you like monsters in the dark. But when you bring awareness, those monsters shrink. This is why meditation in Buddhism is not about becoming calm for no reason. Meditation is about observing the truth. It is about seeing the mind clearly. It is about watching thoughts come and go without becoming their slave. Because the moment you observe your mind, you start understanding yourself. And the moment you understand yourself, you stop being controlled by your hidden pain. For example, a person who avoids their insecurity will always need attention. They will feel empty when people don't message them. They will feel hurt when someone doesn't praise them. They will overthink every small thing because their mind is hungry for validation. But if they face their insecurity, they start becoming whole. They stop chasing approval. They stop needing people to confirm their worth. A person who avoids their anger will explode at the wrong time. They will speak harshly. They will destroy relationships. They will regret later, but the damage will be done. But if they face their anger, they start seeing the real reason behind it. Maybe it was pain. Maybe it was disrespect. Maybe it was feeling powerless. And once they understand the root, anger loses its control. A person who avoids their fear will keep delaying their success. They will keep making excuses. They will keep saying, "I'll start tomorrow. I'm not ready yet. Maybe later." But deep inside, it is not laziness. It is fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of responsibility. And when they face that fear, they stop running. They start moving. This is why facing yourself is not a soft thing. It is not a motivational quote. It is not a cute idea. Facing yourself is war. It is inner war. It is the courage to sit in silence and admit the truth. It is the courage to accept your flaws without hating yourself. It is the courage to take responsibility without blaming everyone. It is the courage to stop being a victim of your emotions. And, let's be real, many people don't face themselves because they think it will break them. They think if they look inside, they will fall apart. They think if they admit the truth, they won't be able to handle it. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. The truth doesn't break you. The truth frees you. What breaks you is pretending. What breaks you is suppressing. What breaks you is carrying pain in silence while acting like you are okay. Because when you keep avoiding yourself, you become tired. You become emotionally drained. You become confused. You become restless. You become easily triggered. You become mentally weak. Not because life is too hard, but because you are fighting yourself every day without even realizing it. So the real freedom begins when you stop running from your own inner world, when you stop escaping your emotions, when you stop distracting yourself from the truth, when you stop acting like you don't know what is hurting you, because you do know. Deep inside, you know exactly what you are avoiding. You know what you need to fix. You know what you need to release. You know what habit is destroying you. You know what thought pattern is poisoning your mind. And the moment you face it, you take your power back. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like water. When water is disturbed, it becomes muddy. You can't see clearly. But when water is still, it becomes clear again. The mud settles. The truth becomes visible. The same thing happens in your mind. When you stop running, when you stop reacting, when you sit with yourself in stillness, your mind becomes clear. And in that clarity, you finally see yourself for who you truly are, not who your fear tells you that you are. So the lesson is this: The person you avoid becomes the person who controls you. If you avoid your pain, it controls your life. If you avoid your fear, it controls your growth. If you avoid your insecurity, it controls your relationships. But if you face yourself, you regain control of everything. Because when you face yourself honestly, you stop being controlled by hidden emotions. You stop being controlled by unconscious patterns. You stop being controlled by old wounds. And you finally become the person who is awake, aware, and free. Not free because life is perfect, but free because your mind is no longer your enemy. 5. Your thoughts are not you, but you keep living like they are. One of the biggest reasons people suffer every single day is because they don't realize one simple truth. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are something that happens inside you, but they are not who you truly are. But most people live as if every thought is a command, as if every thought is reality, as if every thought is their identity. And this is why they feel trapped, overwhelmed, and exhausted, even when nothing is physically wrong in their life. Buddhism teaches that the mind is constantly producing thoughts, just like the lungs produce breathing. Thoughts will come naturally. Some thoughts will be positive, some will be negative, some will be fearful, some will be childish, some will be angry, some will be useless, and some will be completely meaningless. But the mistake people make is they treat every thought as truth. They treat every thought as a message from their soul. They treat every thought as a prophecy, and that is where suffering begins. Because the mind is not always your friend. The mind is not always wise. The mind is not always calm. Sometimes the mind is scared. Sometimes the mind is wounded. Sometimes the mind is insecure. Sometimes the mind is full of ego, and when the mind is like that, it will produce thoughts that are poisonous. It will say things like, "You are not enough." It will say, "People don't respect you." It will say, "You will fail again." It will say, "You're falling behind." It will say, "You're not important." It will say, "You don't deserve love." And if you believe these thoughts, you start living as if they are your truth. You start shrinking yourself. You start overthinking everything. You start doubting your decisions. You start feeling fear even when there is no danger. And slowly, you destroy your own peace. This is why Buddhism teaches mindfulness, because mindfulness is the skill of observing the mind instead of becoming the mind. Most people don't observe their thoughts. They become their thoughts. They merge with them. They drown inside them. A thought comes, and they immediately react. A fear comes, and they panic. A memory comes, and they suffer again. A negative idea comes, and they believe it, and they don't even realize they have a choice. But Buddhism teaches you do have a choice. You can watch your thoughts like clouds passing in the sky. You don't need to chase every cloud. You don't need to fight every cloud. You don't need to become every cloud. You simply observe. You simply stay aware. And when you observe thoughts without attachment, they lose their power over you. Because thoughts are like waves. If you jump into every wave, you will drown. But if you stand on the shore and watch the waves, you will remain safe. Most people are drowning because they are jumping into every thought. They are jumping into anxiety. They are jumping into fear. They are jumping into overthinking. They are jumping into anger. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted every day. Your mind creates thoughts all day, and if you follow them all, you will never have peace. You will never have rest. You will never have stillness, because the mind will always find something to worry about. Even when your life is good, the mind will create a problem. Even when nothing is wrong, the mind will create fear. Even when you are safe, the mind will create an imaginary danger. That is how the mind works when it is untrained. This is why Buddhism says the mind is like a wild monkey. It jumps from branch to branch. It cannot stay still. It cannot stay silent. It keeps pulling you into past memories and future worries. It takes you away from the present moment, which is the only place where peace exists. The past is gone, the future is not here, but your mind will keep taking you there, and then it will make you suffer about something that is not real anymore, or something that has not even happened yet. And this is why overthinking is so powerful. Overthinking is suffering that you create in your own head. Now here is the most important part. Buddhism does not say you should stop thinking. That is impossible. Buddhism teaches you should stop believing everything you think, because there is a difference between having a thought and being controlled by a thought. For example, a thought can say, "Nobody likes you." But that doesn't mean it's true, it's just a thought. A thought can say, "You are going to fail." But that doesn't mean it's true. It's just fear speaking. A thought can say, "You are weak." But that doesn't mean it's true. It's just insecurity speaking. Many thoughts are not facts. They are emotions in the form of words. They are pain in the form of sentences. They are old wounds trying to repeat themselves. And if you don't understand this, you will keep suffering, because you will keep acting based on thoughts that are not real. You will keep reacting to imaginary problems. You will keep living in fear instead of living in reality. This is why self-awareness is the most powerful form of freedom. The moment you realize, "I am not my thoughts," you start gaining power over your mind. You stop being a slave to every negative idea. You stop being controlled by every memory. You stop being controlled by every fear. You start creating distance. A small distance between you and your thoughts, and that distance is peace. Because now when a thought comes, you can pause, you can observe, you can breathe, you can say, "This is just a thought, it is not me." And in that moment, you break the chain. You break the automatic reaction. You break the cycle that has been controlling you. This is exactly why meditation works. Not because it removes thoughts, but because it trains you to stop obeying them. In meditation, you learn to watch the mind like a witness. Thoughts come and you let them go. Thoughts come again and you let them pass. And slowly you start becoming stronger inside. Your mind becomes calmer. Your emotions become lighter. Your focus becomes sharper. And when you carry this into daily life, you become unstoppable. Because people can trigger you, but you don't react instantly. Life can be difficult, but you don't panic instantly. Problems can appear, but you don't collapse instantly. You become stable. You become grounded. You become peaceful. Because now you are not living like your thoughts are you. You are living like your awareness is you. So the lesson is this: your thoughts are not you, but you keep living like they are. And the day you stop believing every thought, you start becoming free. You stop suffering unnecessarily. You stop drowning in overthinking. You stop fighting imaginary battles in your head. You finally return to the present moment. And the present moment is where your real life is. The present moment is where your peace is. The present moment is where your freedom is. So don't try to kill your thoughts. Don't try to run from them. Don't try to fight them. Just observe them, understand them, let them pass. Because you are not your thoughts. You are the one who watches them. 6. You can't heal if you keep pretending you're not hurt. One of the saddest things in life is when a person is suffering deeply, but they keep pretending they are okay, not because they are strong, but because they are tired. Not because they don't feel pain, but because they don't want to admit it. Not because they don't need help, but because they fear being judged. And slowly, this pretending becomes their lifestyle. They smile in front of people, they laugh in conversations, they act normal in public, but inside they are carrying silent wounds that nobody can see. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not disappear when you hide it. It grows, it becomes heavier, it becomes deeper, because pain is not something you can delete. Pain is not something you can ignore forever. Pain is like a fire inside your chest. If you don't face it, it does not go away. It burns quietly. And one day, it becomes so strong that you can't control it anymore. Many people believe that pretending is strength. They think being strong means never crying, never admitting weakness, never confessing that they are tired, never showing emotions. They think this makes them powerful, but Buddhism teaches a different kind of strength. Buddhism teaches that true strength is awareness. True strength is honesty. True strength is being able to look inside yourself and accept what you feel without running from it. Because the truth is, you can't heal what you refuse to admit. If you keep saying, "I'm fine," while you're breaking inside, you are delaying your own recovery. If you keep saying, "It doesn't matter," while it is destroying your peace, you are lying to yourself. If you keep saying, "I moved on," while you are still haunted by the past, you are only trapping yourself deeper. And this is why so many people stay stuck. They don't heal because they don't allow themselves to be real. They don't allow themselves to feel. They don't allow themselves to face the truth. They keep pretending, and pretending becomes their prison. Buddhism teaches that emotions are not enemies. Emotions are messages. They are signals from your inner world. They are not there to punish you. They are there to show you what needs attention, what needs healing, what needs change. But when you keep pretending you are not hurt, you reject those messages. You silence those signals. And then the pain becomes louder in other ways. For example, some people pretend they are okay, but their body starts showing it. They feel headaches, they feel tension, they feel tightness in the chest, they lose sleep, they feel restless. They feel fatigue even after resting, they feel anxious for no reason, and they don't realize this is their hidden pain turning into physical weight. Some people pretend they are okay, but their behavior changes. They become cold. They become emotionally distant. They become easily irritated. They become impatient. They become aggressive. They explode over small things. They push away people who care. They isolate themselves. They stop trusting anyone. And again, they don't realize this is their hidden pain controlling their life. Some people pretend they are okay, but their mind becomes their enemy. They start overthinking everything. They replay conversations. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They feel insecure even when nobody is attacking them. They feel fear even when nothing is happening. Their mind becomes noisy because the pain they never faced is now screaming in thoughts. Buddhism teaches that suffering becomes stronger when you resist it. The more you say, "I shouldn't feel this," the more the feeling stays. The more you say, "I must be strong," the more you break silently. The more you say, "I don't need anyone," the more lonely you become inside. Resistance does not remove pain. Resistance makes pain last longer. This is why Buddhism teaches acceptance, because acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is not saying, "I deserve this." Acceptance is simply saying, "This is what I feel right now, and I am not going to run from it." That is the moment healing begins. Because when you accept your pain, you stop fighting yourself. And most people are not tired because life is hard. They are tired because they are fighting themselves every day. They are fighting their emotions. They are fighting their reality. They are fighting their truth. They are forcing themselves to act okay when inside they are collapsing. So healing starts when you stop forcing yourself to be okay. Healing starts when you stop performing happiness. Healing starts when you stop wearing masks. Healing starts when you finally sit down and admit the truth. And this honesty does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be loud. You don't have to announce it to the world. You don't have to cry in front of everyone. You don't have to explain yourself to people who won't understand. Buddhism teaches that your healing is your responsibility, and it begins with your own awareness. So you sit with yourself and you say, "Yes, I am hurt. Yes, I am tired. Yes, I feel lonely. Yes, I feel empty. Yes, I feel disappointed. Yes, I feel broken." And this simple honesty is powerful because it brings light into the darkness. Now you may ask, why is pretending so common? Why do people hide pain? Because they fear judgment. They fear being seen as weak. They fear being rejected. They fear being misunderstood. They fear being a burden. But Buddhism teaches that the desire to look strong is often ego. It is pride. It is the mind trying to protect its image. And the problem with protecting your image is that you destroy your reality. You save your reputation, but you lose your peace. You look fine outside, but you suffer inside. You become admired for your strength, but nobody knows you are dying quietly. Buddhism teaches that the ego is one of the biggest sources of suffering. Ego wants to appear perfect. Ego wants to appear unshaken. Ego wants to appear in control. But healing requires humility. Healing requires surrender. Healing requires truth. Because the truth is, nobody heals by pretending. A wound does not heal if you cover it and never treat it. A wound heals when you clean it, even if it hurts. A wound heals when you allow it to breathe. A wound heals when you stop ignoring it and start caring for it. The same is true with emotional pain. You cannot heal if you keep pretending you are not hurt. You cannot heal if you keep running from your feelings. You cannot heal if you keep distracting yourself from your inner reality. And Buddhism teaches that emotions, like everything else, are impermanent. They rise, they stay for some time, and they pass. But when you resist them, they stay longer. When you deny them, they return again. When you suppress them, they come back stronger. But when you face them with awareness, they lose power. A person who allows themselves to feel is not weak. A person who allows themselves to feel is brave. Because feeling requires courage, it requires patience, it requires softness. And softness is not weakness. Softness is wisdom. Because a person who is emotionally honest becomes calm, stable, and strong in the long run. They stop reacting to small things. They stop overthinking every moment. They stop seeking validation. They stop needing constant comfort. They become grounded. They become peaceful. They become mature. So the lesson is simple but life-changing. Stop pretending you are not hurt. If you are hurt, admit it. If you are tired, accept it. If you are lonely, face it. If you are broken, recognize it. Not to become a victim, but to become a healer of your own life. Because your healing begins the moment you stop lying to yourself and you start treating your inner pain with honesty. And once you do that, you will be shocked how quickly your peace starts returning. You will sleep better. You will breathe deeper. You will feel lighter. You will stop carrying unnecessary weight. You will stop suffering in silence. Because you finally chose truth over pretending, and truth is always the first step of real healing. 7. The truth will set you free, but first it will expose you. This is the final lesson, and it is the lesson that most people avoid their whole life. Not because it is confusing, not because it is impossible, but because it is painful. It is painful because it forces you to face yourself without excuses. It forces you to see your life clearly. It forces you to admit what you already know deep inside, but you keep ignoring. And that is why this lesson is powerful, because the truth does not comfort your ego. The truth destroys your illusions. And without illusions, you finally become free. Buddhism teaches that suffering continues as long as you live in ignorance. Ignorance is not a lack of education. Ignorance is when you refuse to see reality. It is when you keep living in a story that is not real. It is when you keep feeding yourself false hope, false identity, false comfort, false excuses, and false explanations. It is when you keep saying, "I'm okay," when you're not. It is when you keep saying, "I don't care," when you do. It is when you keep acting like a victim, when you have the power to change. And one day, life brings a moment that breaks the illusion. That moment can be a heartbreak. It can be a betrayal. It can be a failure. It can be losing someone. It can be waking up one day and realizing your life is not what you thought it would be. It can be becoming successful and still feeling empty. It can be being surrounded by people and still feeling alone. It can be having everything and still feeling restless. And in that moment, the truth rises like a storm, and it says, "Look at your life. Look at yourself. You can't run anymore." This is why the truth is scary, because it exposes what you were hiding. It exposes what you were avoiding. It exposes the habits you kept calling normal. It exposes the excuses you kept believing. It exposes the relationships you kept tolerating. It exposes the weakness you kept pretending didn't exist. It exposes the pain you kept suppressing. It exposes the version of you that you were running from. Most people don't fear pain. They fear exposure. They fear seeing their own reality. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you become aware, you can't go back to sleeping. Once the truth becomes clear, you can't keep pretending. You can't keep lying. And that is why the truth feels like it is attacking you. But it is not attacking you. It is saving you. The truth is not meant to destroy you. The truth is meant to destroy the fake version of you. The version that keeps repeating the same mistakes. The version that stays in the same toxic patterns. The version that keeps running away from discipline. The version that keeps seeking comfort over growth. The version that keeps blaming the world while ignoring their own choices. That version needs to be exposed, because that version is the reason you suffer. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment begins when illusion ends. Your peace is not blocked by the world. Your peace is blocked by your illusions. Illusions like, "I will be happy when people love me." Illusions like, "If I become perfect, I will never feel pain." Illusions like, "If I get revenge, I will heal." Illusions like, "If I act strong, I will become strong." Illusions like, "If I ignore my wounds, they will disappear." These illusions may feel protective, but they are poison. They keep you stuck in cycles that never end. And here is what makes the truth even more painful. The truth shows you that many things you blamed were never the real reason. You thought the world ruined you, but you were also ruining yourself. You thought people destroyed your peace, but you were giving them that power. You thought your past was the problem, but your attachment to it was the problem. You thought you were unlucky, but your habits were creating the same outcomes. You thought life was unfair, but you were also avoiding the work needed to change. This is not to shame you, this is to wake you up. Buddhism does not teach self-hate. Buddhism teaches self-awareness. The purpose of truth is not to hurt you, it is to heal you by making you conscious. Because consciousness is power, awareness is power, and once you become aware, you stop repeating the same suffering unconsciously. The truth exposes your patterns. It exposes the way you sabotage yourself. It exposes how you run back to what hurts you because it feels familiar. It exposes how you choose short-term comfort over long-term growth. It exposes how you keep avoiding discomfort because you fear discipline. It exposes how you keep chasing people who don't choose you because you fear being alone. It exposes how you keep seeking attention because you don't feel whole inside. It exposes how you keep blaming others because you don't want to take responsibility. And when you see these patterns, it hurts, because now you realize you were not powerless, you were just asleep. This is why Buddhism teaches that the mind is the root of suffering, not because the mind is evil, but because the mind is full of illusions when it is not trained. The mind creates false stories. The mind creates fear. The mind creates desire. The mind creates attachment. And then you believe it, and you suffer. The truth is, the moment you stop believing the mind blindly. Now here is the next level. The truth does not only expose your weaknesses, it also exposes your potential. It exposes the fact that you are stronger than you thought. It exposes the fact that you can rebuild. It exposes the fact that you can detach. It exposes the fact that you can heal. It exposes the fact that you can become disciplined. It exposes the fact that you can live peacefully without depending on people. It exposes the fact that you can create a new life if you stop living in excuses. That is why truth is uncomfortable at first, but it becomes beautiful later, because truth is like a medicine. Medicine is bitter, but it saves your life. Sugar feels good, but it destroys you slowly. Many people choose the sugar of illusion and avoid the medicine of truth. But Buddhism teaches that only truth ends suffering. And the truth always arrives at the right time. Sometimes it arrives when you are at your lowest. Sometimes it arrives when you are tired of repeating the same pain. Sometimes it arrives when you feel like you have no more energy left. But that is exactly why it arrives then, because that is the moment your ego is weak enough to finally listen. When you are too comfortable, you don't change. When you are too distracted, you don't reflect. When you are too busy, you don't face yourself. But when life humbles you, when life slows you down, when life shakes you, the truth becomes loud. And that truth is not your enemy, it is your guide. Buddhism teaches that suffering is a teacher. It is not here to punish you, it is here to reveal what you need to learn. It is here to show you where you are attached. It is here to show you where you are still asleep. It is here to show you what you must release. So when the truth exposes you, don't run, don't panic, don't collapse, don't hate yourself. Sit with it, observe it, accept it, because truth is the first door to freedom. Now let's talk about the biggest truth that people avoid. You can't escape yourself. You can escape a place, you can escape a person, you can escape a situation, but you cannot escape your own mind. You cannot escape your habits. You cannot escape your unresolved emotions. You cannot escape your attachments. You cannot escape your inner reality. And this is why so many people feel trapped, because they keep trying to escape life instead of changing themselves. You may change your environment, but if your mind is the same, your life will remain the same. You may change your friends, but if your insecurity is the same, your pain will remain the same. You may change your job, but if your discipline is the same, your results will remain the same. You may change your relationship, but if your attachment is the same, your suffering will remain the same. This is why Buddhism focuses on inner transformation, not outer escape. Because outer escape is temporary, but inner transformation is permanent. Now understand this clearly. The truth will expose you, but exposure is not humiliation. Exposure is clarity. Exposure is the moment you stop fooling yourself. Exposure is when you stop living in a fake identity. Exposure is when you stop pretending you are okay while secretly drowning. Exposure is when you stop saying, "This is just life," and you start saying, "I need to change." And that moment is the most powerful moment of your life, because now you finally stop wasting time. You finally stop repeating the same cycle. You finally stop chasing what is not meant for you. You finally stop begging for validation. You finally stop living for people. You finally stop carrying unnecessary pain. You finally stop doing what destroys you. You finally start becoming real. Buddhism teaches that the truth is not outside. The truth is inside you. It is in your awareness. It is in your present moment. It is in your breath. It is in your ability to observe your mind. It is in your ability to let go. It is in your ability to accept impermanence. It is in your ability to stop clinging. And once you accept this truth, your life starts changing. Not in a magical way, but in a real way, because you start making better choices. You stop being controlled by emotions. You stop reacting instantly. You stop losing peace over small things. You stop living in fear. You stop living in regret. You stop living in cravings. You become stable. You become grounded. You become calm. And the world might still be chaotic, but you are not chaotic anymore. Now here is where real freedom begins. Freedom begins when you accept that everything changes. People change. Feelings change. Situations change. Life changes. The body changes. The mind changes. Nothing stays the same. Buddhism calls this impermanence. And the reason you suffer is because you want permanent happiness in an impermanent world. You want people to stay the same forever. You want love to never change. You want respect to always be there. You want life to always be easy. You want your youth to last forever. You want your success to stay forever. But life is movement. Life is change. And when you accept that, you stop suffering. Because now you stop demanding life to be different. You stop begging reality to match your desires. You stop fighting change. You start flowing with it. This is why the Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, because attachment is trying to freeze life. It is trying to hold what cannot be held. It is trying to control what cannot be controlled. And when it breaks, you break. But truth teaches you to release. Truth teaches you to loosen your grip. Truth teaches you to stop clinging to what is temporary. Truth teaches you to live fully, but not depend blindly. And once you stop clinging, you become free. Now listen carefully. The truth will set you free, but first it will expose you. It will expose your weak habits. It will expose your excuses. It will expose your attachment. It will expose your fear. It will expose your ego. It will expose the fake version of you that kept you stuck. And you might feel ashamed at first. You might feel regret. You might feel angry at yourself. But don't let that destroy you. Use it to rebuild. Use it as fuel. Use it as awakening. Because the moment you see your truth clearly, you finally have the power to change it. And this is the final freedom Buddhism offers. Not escape from life, but awakening within life. You stop lying to yourself. You stop running from yourself. You stop depending on others for peace. You stop chasing temporary happiness. You stop clinging to what is gone. You stop reacting like a slave to your thoughts. You stop suffering the same way. And you start living with clarity. So the lesson is this. Your truth is not here to shame you. Your truth is here to free you. Your truth is the beginning of your new life. But you must be brave enough to face it. Because once you face it, you don't need to escape anymore. You finally become the one person you were always searching for. You finally become at peace with yourself. 8. Bonus lesson. Your life will keep repeating until you finally wake up. There is something people don't understand about life, and it is one of the most painful truths you will ever realize. Life does not punish you randomly. Life does not destroy you for no reason. Life is not always against you. Most of the time, life is simply repeating the same lesson again and again until you finally learn it. And this is why some people feel stuck for years. They feel like their life is going in circles. They feel like they are walking but not moving. They feel like they are trying but nothing changes. They feel like they escape one problem and another problem appears again. They feel like they meet a new person but the same pain comes back. They feel like they leave one bad situation, but life brings the same situation in a different shape. And the reason is simple. You didn't learn the lesson. You only escaped the situation. Buddhism teaches that life is not only happening to you, life is also revealing you. Every moment is exposing your mind. Every experience is showing you what you are attached to. Every pain is showing you what you still need to heal. Every trigger is showing you what still controls you. Every disappointment is showing you what expectation you were clinging to. Every emotional breakdown is showing you what you keep ignoring. But most people don't listen. They don't reflect. They don't learn. They just run, distract themselves, blame others, and keep moving without awareness. And so life repeats itself. The same suffering appears again, just wearing a different mask. Because the truth is, the outside world changes, but your inner world stays the same. And if your inner world stays the same, your life will keep producing the same results. Different people, same pain. Different job, same stress. Different city, same emptiness. Different relationship, same attachment. Different routine, same overthinking. And then you start thinking you are unlucky, when the truth is, you are unconscious. Buddhism teaches that unconscious living is the real danger. Unconscious living means you keep reacting without awareness. You keep making decisions from fear instead of wisdom. You keep chasing comfort instead of growth. You keep choosing what feels good now, even when it destroys you later. You keep repeating habits that drain you, but you call it my personality. You keep staying in the same mental prison, but you blame life for it. But here is the difference between a person who suffers endlessly and a person who becomes free. The free person becomes aware. They wake up. And waking up is not some magical spiritual thing. Waking up is simply seeing the truth clearly. It is seeing your patterns clearly. It is seeing your mind clearly. It is seeing your weaknesses without hating yourself. It is seeing your mistakes without making excuses. It is seeing your attachments without pretending they are love. Because the moment you become aware, you stop repeating your suffering. Most people suffer not because life is cruel, but because they keep repeating the same mental mistakes. For example, a person who does not heal their fear of abandonment will keep attracting situations that trigger abandonment. They will stay with people who don't value them. They will tolerate disrespect. They will beg for attention. They will overgive just to be chosen. They will lose their dignity just to keep someone close. And even if they leave that person, the pattern stays. They will meet someone new and repeat it again. Because they never healed the root, they only changed the face. A person who does not heal their insecurity will keep living for validation. They will chase compliments like oxygen. They will fear being ignored. They will fear being replaced. They will fear not being enough. And even if they achieve success, the insecurity will still be there, whispering, "It's not enough." Because insecurity does not disappear when your life improves. It disappears when your mind improves. A person who does not heal their anger will keep damaging relationships. They may say sorry later. They may regret later. But the pattern repeats, because the anger was never treated, only hidden. And hidden anger always leaks. A person who does not heal their addiction to comfort will keep wasting time. They will keep procrastinating. They will keep saying, tomorrow. They will keep escaping discipline. And then life stays the same. And they say, life is unfair. But the truth is, they are avoiding effort. So Buddhism teaches something powerful. Your life will not change until you change. Not outside, inside. Because your life is a mirror, it reflects your mind. If your mind is full of fear, your life will feel dangerous. If your mind is full of insecurity, your life will feel unstable. If your mind is full of attachment, your life will feel like suffering. If your mind is full of ego, your life will feel like war. But if your mind becomes calm, your life becomes calm. If your mind becomes clear, your life becomes clear. This is why awareness is everything. Now here is the truth that will hit you deeply. Most people want change, but they don't want transformation. They want their problems to disappear, but they don't want to become a stronger person. They want life to improve, but they don't want to improve their discipline. They want peace, but they don't want to face their inner truth. They want a new life, but they refuse to become a new person. And life will not reward that. Buddhism teaches that karma is not only about good deeds and bad deeds. Karma is cause and effect. Your habits are causes, your mindset is a cause, your choices are causes, and your reality is the effect. So, if you keep choosing the same causes, you will keep getting the same effects. You can pray for peace all day, but if you keep feeding overthinking every night, you will not feel peace. You can wish for success all day, but if you keep avoiding work every morning, you will not get success. You can beg for love all day, but if you keep disrespecting yourself, you will not receive healthy love. Because life is not listening to your wishes, life is responding to your patterns. That is why people feel trapped. They are praying for a different reality while repeating the same habits that create the old one. But the moment you wake up, you stop doing this. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming life. You stop running from responsibility. You stop seeking shortcuts. You stop escaping discomfort. And you start doing the real work. The real work is internal. The real work is to observe your mind every day, to catch yourself when you are falling into old patterns, to notice when you are becoming emotional, to notice when you are craving validation, to notice when you are becoming attached, to notice when you are overthinking, to notice when you are escaping discipline, and then gently bring yourself back. This is how freedom is built, not overnight, not in one miracle, but through awareness, again and again. Buddhism teaches that the mind is trained the same way the body is trained. You don't go to the gym one day and become strong forever. You train again and again. The same way, you don't meditate one day and become peaceful forever. You practice again and again. You return to awareness again and again. And this is why your suffering repeats until you wake up. Because the suffering is not here to destroy you, it is here to wake you up. It is here to show you what you must stop doing. It is here to show you what you must let go. It is here to show you what you must heal. If you were truly awake, you would not keep choosing what hurts you. If you were truly awake, you would not keep staying where you are disrespected. If you were truly awake, you would not keep delaying your growth. If you were truly awake, you would not keep feeding your overthinking. If you were truly awake, you would not keep making your happiness depend on others. So don't hate your suffering. Learn from it. Look at it as a teacher. Ask it one powerful question. What is this pain trying to show me? Because every time you feel pain, there is a lesson behind it. A lesson about your attachment. A lesson about your expectations. A lesson about your boundaries, a lesson about your self-respect, a lesson about your habits, a lesson about your mind, and once you learn the lesson, the suffering reduces. This is why some people become wiser after pain, while others become bitter. The wise person learns, the bitter person repeats, and you must choose who you want to be. Now let me give you the most powerful truth to end this lesson. The moment you wake up, life changes fast. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because you become stronger. Because you become calm. Because you become emotionally stable. Because you become clear. Because you stop reacting like a slave. Because you stop clinging like a desperate person. Because you stop living from fear. When you wake up, you become the master of your life. You don't run anymore. You don't beg anymore. You don't chase anymore. You don't panic anymore. You don't break easily anymore. Because you finally understand. You understand that peace is not found by escaping the world. Peace is built by mastering the mind. And once you master your mind, you are free. So the lesson is simple. Your life will keep repeating until you wake up, until you stop lying to yourself, until you stop running from yourself, until you stop living unconsciously, until you finally become aware. And the day you wake up, you will never suffer the same way again. 9. Bonus lesson. The hardest prison is the one you decorate with comfort. Most people don't realize they are trapped, because their prison doesn't look like a prison. There are no bars, there are no chains, there are no guards, there is no darkness that scares them. Instead, their prison is comfortable, it is warm, it is familiar, it feels safe. And because it feels safe, they stay inside it for years, sometimes their entire life, without even questioning it. Buddhism teaches that the mind can create a prison that looks like comfort, and that is the most dangerous kind of prison, because you don't try to escape from something that feels normal. You don't try to change something that feels familiar. You don't fight something that gives you small pleasure. You only fight what hurts loudly. But this kind of prison does not hurt loudly. It destroys you silently. This is why so many people don't change, not because they are incapable, not because they don't have talent, not because they are cursed, but because they are comfortable in their suffering. They are comfortable being distracted. They are comfortable wasting time. They are comfortable scrolling for hours. They are comfortable eating emotions instead of healing them. They are comfortable sleeping late and waking up tired. They are comfortable avoiding responsibility. They are comfortable staying in bad habits. They are comfortable staying around people who drain them. They are comfortable accepting less than they deserve. They are comfortable with a life that is not growing. And they don't call it a prison. They call it my life. They call it normal. They call it this is how things are. They call it I'll change later. But later never comes. Because comfort delays transformation. Buddhism teaches that suffering is created not only by pain, but by attachment. And one of the biggest attachments people have is attachment to ease, attachment to laziness, attachment to shortcuts, attachment to not feeling discomfort, because discomfort feels like danger to the mind. But the truth is, discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is growth. The mind wants to avoid anything that feels difficult. The mind wants to avoid discipline. The mind wants to avoid effort. The mind wants to avoid deep reflection. The mind wants to avoid silence. The mind wants to avoid facing the truth. So it gives you distractions. It gives you excuses. It gives you pleasure. It gives you entertainment. It gives you comfort. And slowly, you start decorating your prison. You decorate it with small joys. You decorate it with comfort food. You decorate it with endless videos. You decorate it with gossip. You decorate it with social media. You decorate it with temporary attention. You decorate it with fake motivation. You decorate it with sleep. You decorate it with daydreaming. You decorate it with I deserve a break, even when your entire life is already a break from responsibility. And before you know it, years pass, and you still feel the same inside. The worst part is, the mind will convince you that you are living, but you're not truly living. You're surviving, you're existing, you're passing time, you're escaping your own potential. This is why Buddhism teaches that ignorance is suffering. Because when you are ignorant, you don't see what is happening. You think you are free, but you are controlled. You think you are choosing comfort, but comfort is choosing you. You think you are relaxing, but you are avoiding. You think you are enjoying life, but you are running from life. And one day, reality hits you. You look back and you realize you wasted time. You wasted energy. You wasted years. You wasted your own power. And that regret is heavier than any pain you avoided. Because pain is temporary, but regret lasts long. This is why Buddhism teaches awareness. Because awareness breaks the spell. Awareness makes you see what you are doing. Awareness makes you see your patterns. Awareness makes you see your habits. Awareness makes you see that you are not stuck because life is impossible. You are stuck because you keep choosing comfort. Now understand something deeply. Comfort is not always bad. Rest is needed. Peace is needed. Calm is needed. But comfort becomes dangerous when it becomes your identity. When you start avoiding every difficulty, when you start refusing every challenge, when you start rejecting discipline, when you start escaping discomfort like it is fire. Because growth does not happen in comfort, strength does not happen in comfort, confidence does not happen in comfort, peace does not happen in comfort. Real peace is built from discipline, not distraction. Buddhism teaches that the mind is trained through effort, through practice, through awareness again and again. But the comfort prison makes you lazy, it makes you postpone, it makes you delay. It makes you say, tomorrow, every day. And that is why many people never reach their potential, not because they lack ability, but because they lack urgency. They think they have time, they think life will wait, they think their youth will last forever, they think opportunities will always return, they think motivation will come randomly. But Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything changes, life is moving, time is passing, and one day you will wake up older and you will realize you wasted the time you were given. That is why the comfort prison is deadly, because it steals your time without you noticing. Now listen carefully. The prison you decorate with comfort is built from small choices, not big disasters. It is built when you choose to avoid one important task. It is built when you choose to stay in bed longer. It is built when you choose to ignore your health. It is built when you choose to eat emotionally instead of healing emotionally. It is built when you choose to stay with people who disrespect you because leaving feels uncomfortable. It is built when you choose to tolerate what drains you because change feels scary. It is built when you choose to stay silent about your truth because confrontation feels hard. And these small choices look harmless, but over time they become your identity, they become your life, they become your prison. That is why Buddhism teaches that the present moment is everything. Because every moment you have a choice. Every moment you can choose awareness. Every moment you can choose discipline. Every moment you can choose truth. Every moment you can choose growth. But most people don't choose. They react. They react with comfort. They react with distraction. They react with avoidance. They react with excuses. And they stay trapped. Now here is the hard truth. The comfort prison does not break you suddenly. It breaks you slowly. It makes you weak slowly. It makes your mind lazy slowly. It makes you lose motivation slowly. It makes you lose self-respect slowly. It makes you lose your hunger slowly. It makes you forget your dreams slowly. It makes you accept less slowly. It makes you settle slowly. And this is why people wake up one day and feel empty, even though their life looks normal, because they lost themselves slowly. They didn't lose themselves in one big moment. They lost themselves in small moments of comfort. This is why Buddhism teaches discipline as a path to freedom. Because discipline is not punishment. Discipline is liberation. Discipline is the act of choosing your future over your comfort. Discipline is choosing growth over ease. Discipline is choosing truth over temporary pleasure. And once you start practicing discipline, you start breaking the prison walls. You stop wasting time. You stop running from difficulty. You stop escaping discomfort. You stop feeding distractions. You stop being controlled by cravings. You become powerful again. Now, some people might say, "But I'm tired. Life is hard. I need comfort." And yes, life can be hard, but Buddhism teaches balance. Rest is good, but comfort should not become your master. Because when comfort becomes your master, you become a slave. A free person can rest and still grow. A trapped person rests and forgets how to move. So the real question is not, do you deserve comfort? The real question is your comfort building you or destroying you? Because there is comfort that heals, like peaceful rest, mindfulness, meditation, walking in nature, silence, and reflection. And then there is comfort that poisons, like endless scrolling, laziness, escaping responsibilities, avoiding hard conversations, feeding addictions, and living unconsciously. One comfort makes you stronger. The other comfort makes you weaker. And you must choose which one you are living in. Buddhism teaches that attachment to pleasure creates suffering, because pleasure becomes a craving, and craving becomes a chain. And then you keep needing more comfort to feel okay. But comfort never fills the emptiness. It only delays it. That is why people binge distractions when they feel empty, because distractions are temporary medicine, but the emptiness returns stronger when the distraction ends. So the solution is not to decorate the prison, the solution is to break out of it. And breaking out is not easy. It requires discomfort. It requires discipline. It requires facing yourself. It requires silence. It requires truth. But the reward is worth it, because once you break out, you become alive again. You become focused again. You become hungry again. You become confident again. You become proud of yourself again, because you stop living like a prisoner. You start living like a warrior. So the lesson is this: the hardest prison is the one you decorate with comfort. It looks safe, but it steals your life. It looks normal, but it kills your potential. It feels peaceful, but it keeps you weak. And the day you finally wake up, you stop decorating the prison. You start breaking the walls. You choose discipline. You choose awareness. You choose truth. You choose growth. Because deep inside, you know you were born for more than comfort. You were born for freedom. 10. Bonus lesson. The moment you stop escaping, you finally start living. Most people don't realize this, but the biggest tragedy in life is not failure. It is not heartbreak. It is not losing money. It is not being rejected. The biggest tragedy is spending years escaping your own life and calling it normal. Because when you keep escaping, you are not truly living. You are only existing. You are only surviving. You are only passing time. And the worst part is, you don't even notice it, because escaping feels like relief in the moment. Buddhism teaches that the human mind becomes addicted to escape, not because escape is good, but because escape feels easier than truth. Escape feels easier than facing the mind. Escape feels easier than healing. Escape feels easier than discipline. Escape feels easier than responsibility. Escape feels easier than becoming a better person. That is why so many people live the same year again and again. Different days, same pain. Different people, same emptiness. Different dreams, same delay. Escape is comfortable because it gives you temporary peace, but it is fake peace. It is the kind of peace that disappears the moment the distraction ends. You scroll to escape loneliness, but loneliness returns. You sleep to escape reality, but reality waits. You eat to escape emotions, but emotions come back stronger. You chase people to escape being alone, but the emptiness still follows. You chase motivation to escape discipline, but motivation never stays. You chase temporary pleasure to escape inner pain, but pain grows quietly inside. This is why Buddhism teaches mindfulness, because mindfulness is the opposite of escape. Mindfulness is facing the present moment. It is seeing reality clearly. It is being aware of your mind, your body, and your emotions without running. And this is the moment real living begins. Not when life becomes perfect, but when you finally stop escaping what is real. Most people think living means having fun, traveling, laughing, enjoying. But Buddhism teaches that real living is inner freedom. Real living is being present with your own life, even when it is hard, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is painful. Because the pain is not the enemy is your habit of escaping pain. The moment you stop escaping, you start seeing yourself clearly, and that is a powerful moment. It can feel uncomfortable at first, because now you cannot hide behind distractions. You cannot hide behind fake confidence. You cannot hide behind excuses. You cannot hide behind entertainment. You cannot hide behind people. You are forced to meet yourself. And when you meet yourself, you realize something deep. You were never running from the world. You were running from yourself. You were running from your emotions. You were running from your fears. You were running from your insecurities. You were running from your responsibilities. You were running from your own potential. You were running from the truth you already knew. Buddhism teaches that the mind creates suffering when it avoids reality, because reality always wins. You can delay it, but you can't defeat it. You can hide from it, but you can't escape it. The truth will always return, and the longer you avoid it, the stronger it becomes. This is why many people feel heavy at night. All day they stay busy, they laugh, they talk, they distract themselves, they keep moving. But when the night comes, when everything becomes quiet, their mind becomes loud. Their fears return, their regrets return, their loneliness returns, their pain returns. Because the mind does not forget what you avoid. It waits for silence, and then it speaks. That is why some people fear silence. Silence exposes them. Silence removes the noise. Silence removes the mask. Silence reveals the truth. And if you have been escaping for a long time, silence feels like punishment. But in Buddhism, silence is not punishment. Silence is medicine. Silence is where healing begins. The moment you stop escaping, you start feeling everything you were suppressing. You start feeling sadness you never processed. You start feeling anger you kept hiding. You start feeling disappointment you ignored. You start feeling guilt you pushed away. You start feeling emptiness you covered with distractions. And yes, that can feel painful. But that pain is not the problem. That pain is the beginning of healing. Because healing does not happen when you feel nothing. Healing happens when you finally feel what you avoided and let it pass through you instead of staying stuck inside you. Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything changes. Emotions are like waves. They rise, they stay, and they fall. But when you avoid emotions, they don't fall. They stay inside you and build pressure. And then one day, you explode, you break down, you lose control, and you wonder why. The reason is simple. You weren't feeling, you were escaping. So when you stop escaping, you stop building pressure. You start releasing. You start becoming lighter. You start becoming free. Now here is the next truth. Escaping is not only about distractions. Escaping is also about refusing responsibility. Many people escape by blaming others. They blame their parents. They blame their friends. They blame society. They blame the past. They blame bad luck. They blame everything outside. And yes, sometimes people did hurt you. Sometimes life was unfair. Sometimes you were unlucky. But Buddhism teaches something powerful. Even if life hurt you, you still have the responsibility to heal yourself. Because if you keep blaming forever, you stay trapped forever. Blame feels like comfort because it removes responsibility from your hands. It makes you feel like you have no control, so you don't need to change. But that is also what destroys you, because blaming keeps you powerless. The moment you stop escaping, you stop blaming. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop expecting life to become easy. You start becoming the creator of your own peace. This is why Buddhism is not just a religion or a philosophy. It is a path of inner training, a path of awareness, a path of discipline, a path of freedom. Because in Buddhism, freedom does not mean you get everything you want. Freedom means you are no longer controlled by craving. Freedom means you are no longer controlled by fear. Freedom means you are no longer controlled by attachment. Freedom means you are no longer controlled by your thoughts. Most people think freedom is outside. They think freedom is money, freedom is fame, freedom is people loving you, freedom is success. But Buddhism teaches that you can have everything and still be a slave if your mind is not free. You can have money and still suffer. You can have love and still overthink. You can have friends and still feel lonely. You can have success and still feel empty, because the prison is not outside. The prison is inside the mind. That is why escaping never works, because you can change your outside world, but if your mind is the same, you carry the prison with you. The moment you stop escaping, you finally start training the mind. You learn to sit with yourself. You learn to face your emotions. You learn to observe your thoughts. You learn to let go of attachment. You learn to accept reality. You learn to live in the present moment. And slowly, your inner world becomes calmer. You stop reacting to everything. You stop getting triggered so easily. You stop losing peace over small things. You stop feeling empty when people don't validate you. You stop fearing loneliness because you become comfortable with yourself. This is real freedom. This is real living. Now here is the part most people don't understand. When you stop escaping, you also start seeing life more clearly. You start noticing beauty in small things. You start noticing peace in silence. You start noticing gratitude in your breath. You start noticing strength in your struggles. Because when you were escaping, you were not present. You were rushing. You were chasing. You were distracted. You were living in tomorrow or yesterday. But when you stop escaping, you return to the moment. And the moment is where life truly exists. This is why Buddhism teaches that the present moment is all you have. The past is gone. The future is not here. But your mind keeps leaving the present, and that is why you suffer. You suffer in the past through regret. You suffer in the future through anxiety. But peace exists only in the present, and you can only feel the present when you stop escaping. Now let's talk about why stopping escape is difficult. Because escape has been your survival tool. It has been your coping mechanism. When life hurt you, you escaped. When people disappointed you, you escaped. When you felt lonely, you escaped. When you felt insecure, you escaped. When you felt powerless, you escaped. Escape became your medicine. But it is not medicine, it is a drug. It numbs you temporarily, but it does not heal you. So quitting escape feels like quitting an addiction. It feels uncomfortable. It feels painful. It feels restless. Because now you are forced to feel again. But this is where true growth happens. Because discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is the sign that your mind is changing. When you start waking up early, it feels uncomfortable, but you grow. When you start meditating, it feels uncomfortable, but you heal. When you start letting go, it feels uncomfortable, but you become free. When you start being disciplined, it feels uncomfortable, but you become strong. When you start facing your truth, it feels uncomfortable, but you become real. This is why Buddhism teaches that the path to liberation is not easy, but it is worth it. Now here is the final truth of this lesson. The moment you stop escaping, you start living with meaning. You stop chasing shallow pleasure and start building deep peace. You stop chasing attention and start building self-respect. You stop chasing approval and start building inner confidence. You stop chasing distractions and start building real discipline. You begin to live like a person who is awake. And when you become awake, life feels different. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you become powerful. You become calm even when the world is loud. You become stable even when people change. You become peaceful even when situations are hard. You become focused even when distractions are everywhere. You become confident even when nobody supports you, because you stopped escaping and you finally started living. So the lesson is simple but life-changing. Your escape is keeping you trapped. Your distractions are keeping you weak. Your avoidance is keeping you stuck. And the moment you stop running, you finally become free. Not free because life is easy. Free because your mind is no longer a prison. And once your mind becomes free, you don't need to escape anymore. You finally start living. 11. Bonus lesson. Your peace is not a destination. It is a daily practice. Most people think peace is something they will reach one day. They treat peace like a destination on a map. They think, when I fix my life, I will finally feel peace. When I become successful, I will finally feel calm. When I find the right person, I will finally feel complete. When I escape my problems, I will finally be happy. But Buddhism teaches a truth that destroys this illusion completely. Peace is not something you reach in the future. Peace is something you practice in the present. Because if peace was a destination, then only people with perfect lives would be peaceful. But you already know that's not true. There are people who have everything, yet they are mentally broken. And there are people with very little, yet they are calm and light inside. That is because peace does not depend on what you have. Peace depends on how you live inside your mind. Buddhism teaches that peace is built like a skill, not found like a treasure. Just like you don't become strong by thinking about the gym, you become strong by training. In the same way, you don't become peaceful by hoping, you become peaceful by practicing. And the practice is daily because the mind is daily. Every day you wake up, the mind begins again. The thoughts begin again. The cravings begin again. The worries begin again. The emotions begin again. And if you don't have a practice, the mind will automatically return to old patterns, old fear, old attachment, old anger, old insecurity, old overthinking, old pain. That is why some people feel stuck even after healing. Because healing is not a one-time event. Healing is a daily commitment. This is why Buddhism teaches mindfulness and meditation, not because it is trendy, not because it sounds spiritual, but because without awareness, the mind becomes a prison again. Without awareness, your thoughts become loud again. Without awareness, attachment returns again. Without awareness, you fall back into the same suffering again. Peace is not something you buy. Peace is not something people give you. Peace is not something you earn once and keep forever. Peace is a daily practice, a daily choice, and a daily discipline. Most people don't understand this, so they keep postponing peace. They keep saying, I will be peaceful when life becomes better. But Buddhism teaches that life will always have problems. Life will always have change. Life will always have loss. Life will always have unexpected moments. So if you wait for a perfect life to feel peace, you will never feel peace. Peace is what you bring to life, not what life brings to you. Now here is the hard truth. Your mind will always create reasons to lose peace if it is untrained. Even on a good day, the mind will find something negative. Even when everything is fine, the mind will find something to worry about. Even when nothing is wrong, the mind will remember pain. Even when you are safe, the mind will imagine danger. That is why peace cannot be a destination, because the mind does not stay calm automatically. The mind must be trained daily. Buddhism teaches that your mind is like a garden. If you don't take care of it, weeds will grow. You don't need to plant weeds. They grow naturally. In the same way, negative thoughts grow naturally. Fear grows naturally. Doubt grows naturally. Anger grows naturally. Attachment grows naturally. But peace does not grow automatically. Peace grows when you plant it. Peace grows when you water it with awareness. Peace grows when you remove the weeds of ego, craving, and illusion. So peace is not something you get. Peace is something you build. And building peace is not about escaping pain. It is about learning how to stay calm even when pain exists. Because pain is part of life, but peace is part of wisdom. Now think about this deeply. There are people who want peace, but they do everything that destroys it. They want calmness, but they keep feeding overthinking. They want happiness, but they keep comparing themselves. They want freedom, but they keep depending on others. They want confidence, but they keep seeking validation. They want stability, but they keep chasing temporary pleasure. And then they ask, "Why am I not peaceful?" Buddhism would answer, "Because you are not practicing peace." You cannot plant chaos and expect peace to grow. You cannot feed attachment and expect freedom to grow. You cannot feed ego and expect calmness to grow. You cannot feed distraction and expect clarity to grow. This is why peace is a daily practice, because every day you choose what you feed inside your mind. You feed peace when you meditate. You feed peace when you accept reality. You feed peace when you stop reacting instantly. You feed peace when you let go of what you can't control. You feed peace when you stop chasing validation. You feed peace when you detach from toxic people. You feed peace when you focus on your growth. You feed peace when you live with gratitude. You feed peace when you return to the present moment. But you destroy peace when you do the opposite. You destroy peace when you overthink. You destroy peace when you cling. You destroy peace when you chase. You destroy peace when you compare. You destroy peace when you live in regret. You destroy peace when you live in anxiety. You destroy peace when you feed anger. You destroy peace when you feed ego. So your life becomes the result of what you practice daily. Now here is where Buddhism becomes powerful. Buddhism does not teach you to run away from life. Buddhism teaches you to master your reactions, because your reactions create your suffering. The world can be loud, but you don't have to be loud inside. People can be unfair, but you don't have to lose yourself. Life can be unpredictable, but you don't have to collapse. Challenges can happen, but you don't have to panic. Because peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of awareness. And awareness is something you practice every day. Now understand something clearly. Practicing peace does not mean you become emotionless. It does not mean you become cold. It does not mean you stop caring. Buddhism is not about becoming a robot. Buddhism is about becoming free. A free person still feels emotions, but emotions don't control them. A free person still experiences pain, but pain doesn't destroy them. A free person still faces problems, but problems don't steal their identity. This is what daily practice creates. It creates stability inside you. Now think about the strongest people you know, the ones who stay calm under pressure, the ones who don't react emotionally, the ones who don't chase anyone, the ones who don't beg for attention, the ones who seem unshakable. Do you think they are calm because life is easy for them? No, they are calm because they trained their mind. That is why peace is a practice. Now let's talk about what practice actually means. Practice means you return again and again. When a negative thought comes, you return to awareness. When anger rises, you return to breathing. When anxiety appears, you return to the present moment. When someone triggers you, you return to silence. When you feel attached, you return to letting go. When you feel lost, you return to truth. Practice means you don't try to be perfect. You try to be consistent, because the mind becomes peaceful through repetition, not through one-time motivation. This is why Buddhism teaches the middle path. You don't force yourself too hard, and you don't escape too much. You train gently, but daily. You remain disciplined, but patient. You stay aware, but kind to yourself. Because peace is not built by self-hate. Peace is built by self-awareness. Now here is the truth. The biggest reason people lose peace is not the world. It is their attachment to how life should be. They want people to behave perfectly. They want life to go their way. They want outcomes to be guaranteed. They want love to never change. They want respect from everyone. They want everything to be stable forever. But Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything changes. And when you accept change, you stop suffering. That acceptance is also a daily practice. You practice acceptance daily. You practice letting go daily. You practice mindfulness daily. You practice truth daily. Because the mind will always try to return to attachment. It will always try to return to craving. It will always try to return to ego. It will always try to return to fear. And if you don't practice, the mind will pull you back. So peace is not something you reach once. Peace is something you return to again and again. And once you understand this, you stop chasing peace as a destination. You stop waiting for life to become perfect. You stop thinking happiness is far away. You stop believing peace is only for lucky people. You realize peace is a choice you can practice today, right now. Even if your life is messy, even if you feel lost, even if you are hurt, even if you are confused, even if you are alone. Because peace is not external. Peace is internal. And internal peace is built through daily practice. So the lesson is simple. Stop treating peace like a future reward. Start treating peace like a daily discipline, a daily mindset, a daily training. Because the moment you practice peace daily, you stop escaping yourself. You stop lying to yourself. You stop being controlled by your mind. You stop being trapped by attachment. You finally become free. Not because life becomes perfect, but because your mind becomes stronger than life. 12. Bonus lesson. When you stop needing to be understood, you become untouchable. One of the biggest reasons people suffer silently is not because life is hard, but because they are still emotionally chained to something very dangerous. The need to be understood, the need to be validated, the need to be accepted, the need for people to see them. And as long as you carry this need, your peace will always be in someone else's hands. Buddhism teaches a truth that can change your life completely. The moment you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you stop being controlled by everyone. Because the need to be understood is a hidden form of attachment. It is a hidden form of craving. It is the mind saying, if they don't get me, I will suffer. And that is why people break so easily. Not because they are weak, but because they are still handing power to outside opinions. Most people are not suffering because they are alone. They are suffering because they feel misunderstood. They feel unseen. They feel ignored. They feel like no one truly knows them. And that feeling becomes heavy because they start thinking, maybe I am not important. Maybe I am not valuable. Maybe my feelings don't matter. And then they start chasing explanation. They start explaining themselves to people who don't care. They start proving themselves to people who already judge them. They start begging for respect from people who enjoy disrespecting them. They start fighting for a place in hearts that are already closed. And the more they chase understanding, the more they lose peace. Buddhism teaches that your suffering increases the moment you attach your worth to someone's perception. Because perception is unstable. People change. People misunderstand. People project their own pain onto you. People judge based on their ego. People speak from their own insecurity. People don't always see your intention. Sometimes they only see what their mind wants to see. So if you need people to understand you for you to feel okay, you will always suffer, because people will never fully understand you. Not because you are unlovable, but because every person sees life through their own lens, through their own wounds, through their own beliefs, through their own ego. Even if you explain your heart perfectly, a person who is committed to misunderstanding you will still misunderstand you, and that is one of the harshest truths in life. So Buddhism teaches detachment from opinions, not because you become arrogant, not because you become careless, but because you become free. The Buddha's path is the path of inner stability, and inner stability means your peace cannot be controlled by what people say or think. Now understand something deeply. The need to be understood often comes from pain. It often comes from childhood wounds, from being ignored, from being judged, from being criticized, from never feeling enough, and that need turns into a habit. You start over-explaining. You start over-justifying. You start over-proving. You start over-performing. Because you think if you explain enough, people will finally respect you. But the truth is, respect does not come from explanations. Respect comes from boundaries. Respect comes from self-worth. Respect comes from silence and strength. Buddhism teaches that attachment to identity is suffering, and one part of identity attachment is, I want people to see me the way I see myself. But people don't always see you that way. They see you based on what they want, and when you fight for their understanding, you suffer. This is why the strongest people are not the loudest. The strongest people are the ones who stop chasing approval. They stop needing to be understood. They stop needing to be liked. They stop needing to be chosen. They stop needing to be praised. Because the moment you stop needing those things, you become untouchable. No insult can destroy you. No rejection can break you. No misunderstanding can shake you. No gossip can ruin your peace. Because you are no longer living from outside validation, you are living from inner truth. Now here is the reality. Many people will never understand you, not because you are wrong, but because your growth triggers them, your peace triggers them, your discipline triggers them, your boundaries trigger them, your silence triggers them. A person who is addicted to drama will not understand your calm. A person who is addicted to laziness will not understand your discipline. A person who is insecure will not understand your confidence. A person who is selfish will not understand your kindness. A person who is immature will not understand your emotional control. And if you keep needing their understanding, you will keep lowering yourself to their level. You will keep wasting energy explaining your truth to people who don't even want truth. This is why Buddhism teaches right speech and silence. Because silence is not weakness, silence is power, silence is peace. Silence is the ability to stay calm even when others are loud. When someone misunderstands you, you don't have to fight. When someone judges you, you don't have to prove. When someone insults you, you don't have to react. When someone ignores you, you don't have to beg. Because the moment you stop reacting, you take your power back. Now you might think, but what if people think I'm wrong? Buddhism teaches that what people think is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is your intention, your actions, and your awareness. That is it. You can be the kindest person and still be misunderstood. You can be honest and still be judged. You can be loyal and still be accused. You can be pure-hearted and still be doubted. Because people see you through their own mind, not yours. This is why the Buddha taught that attachment leads to suffering, and attachment to reputation is one of the most painful attachments, because reputation is fragile. It depends on others. It depends on words. It depends on perception, and perception is always changing. So, if you want peace, you must detach from needing to be understood. That does not mean you stop communicating. It means you stop begging for someone's approval. You speak when it is necessary. You explain when it is valuable. But you don't destroy your peace trying to convince people who don't want to listen, because the more you explain, the more you give them power. And the more you give them power, the weaker you become inside. Now here is the next truth. People who demand explanations from you usually do not want truth. They want control. They want you to feel guilty. They want you to doubt yourself. They want you to chase them. And if you keep explaining, you keep feeding their power. Buddhism teaches that attachment to other people's reactions is suffering. Because you cannot control how people react, you can only control yourself. So the moment you stop needing to be understood, you stop being controlled by reactions. You stop being controlled by approval. You stop being controlled by disapproval. You become stable, and stability is the highest power. This is why you will notice something about peaceful people. They don't argue much. They don't explain much. They don't defend themselves to everyone. They don't chase people. They don't beg for respect. They walk away quietly. They stay calm. They remain grounded because they know their truth, and their truth is enough. Buddhism teaches that your self-worth should come from awareness, not from applause. When you live from awareness, you no longer need to be understood because you are already aligned with yourself. And when you are aligned with yourself, people can misunderstand you, but you won't misunderstand yourself. That is the real victory. Because the greatest pain is not being misunderstood by others. The greatest pain is misunderstanding yourself, losing yourself, doubting yourself, abandoning yourself. So when you stop needing people to understand you, you stop abandoning yourself. You stop shrinking. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You stop overthinking. You become solid. Now the final truth of this lesson is this. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not everyone deserves to know your reasons. Not everyone deserves to hear your story. Not everyone deserves your energy. Buddhism teaches that wise people protect their peace. They don't throw their heart into every hand. They don't share their soul with everyone. They choose carefully, because peace is expensive. Peace costs you old habits. Peace costs you attachments. Peace costs you toxic relationships. Peace costs you ego. Peace costs you comfort. And once you earn peace, you don't waste it trying to convince people who don't deserve it. So the lesson is simple. When you stop needing to be understood, you become untouchable. You become calm even when people talk. You become stable even when people judge. You become free even when people leave. You become powerful even when people misunderstand, because now your peace is not in their hands. At the end of everything, the truth is simple, and Buddhism does not hide it from you. You can run from people, you can run from places, you can run from pain, you can even run from responsibility for a while, but you cannot run from yourself, because the mind you carry is the same mind that will follow you into every new chapter of your life. And if that mind is full of lies, attachment, fear, and unhealed wounds, then even a perfect life will still feel heavy inside. But the beautiful part is this. The moment you stop escaping, the moment you stop pretending, the moment you stop lying to yourself, your life begins to change from the inside out. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become aware, you become stronger, you become calmer, you become the kind of person who can sit in silence and not feel afraid. You become the kind of person who can lose something and still stay stable. You become the kind of person who can be alone and still feel whole. And that is real freedom. Because freedom is not getting everything you want. Freedom is not being loved by everyone. Freedom is not living a life with no problems. Freedom is when your mind is no longer your enemy. Freedom is when your peace does not depend on anyone's attention, anyone's behavior, or anyone's validation. Freedom is when your happiness comes from within, not from outside. So if you remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Stop running, stop hiding, stop escaping, face yourself with honesty. Observe your thoughts instead of obeying them. Let go of what you can't control. Release attachment that keeps you suffering. Practice peace daily. And most importantly, stop needing to be understood by people who don't even understand themselves. Because the moment you truly accept yourself, you stop chasing everything outside. And that is when your life finally becomes lighter. That is when your heart finally becomes calm. That is when your soul finally becomes free. You can't escape yourself, but you can heal yourself. And once you do, you will never be the same again.